The next story happened about 7 years later. It was starting to come toward the end of my prison life, you know. Not quite. It's a couple more years. I did a couple more violations. At this point, I wasn't committing any new crimes. I was just not reporting to my parole officer and doing violations because I was absconding. And I'd gotten busted. It was 2006, and I'd gotten busted on another violation. They took me to Chino. When I first got, I was in LA County Jail for about a month. Saw the parole board there. They gave me like 4 months. I was going to do about 2. With halftime, you know. They took me to Chino. First, they had me in the level 4, Sequoia. Sometimes they put me in Palm, which is a really rough one. But this time it's Sequoia. It could get treacherous too, but not as much as Palm Hall. But anyway, I was in there for about 3 weeks. Then they transferred me out of there to West Yard, which is like a medium security with dorms, which is a little bit better, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes those lower securities can be even worse because there's hundreds of people that just packed into a dorm, and especially when they go out to the yard, there's 500-600 people out on the yard. And if something jumps off, it could be a big freaking deal. Does it happen a lot? No, but it happens. And some of the worst riots that you could ever see happen then. Well, I think you can tell where this is going, right? Anyway, I'm in this, if I remember, because I've been in West Yard like 4 or 5 times. I think I was in Cedar Hall this time. But if it wasn't that, it doesn't matter which hall is in. I can't remember. I think it was Cedar. But anyway, I get transferred in there, and it's getting kind of late in the evening. And by this time, I got my paperwork. Everybody checks my paperwork to see if I make sure I don't have any smut on my jacket. I don't. I get introduced to the shot caller and the lieutenants and all that, and the people from my car, because there's people running cars. It depends on what county they got busted in and where they live. And I was from the SFV car, San Fernando Valley. And some of the other guys, and it's a big car. Plenty of people from San Fernando Valley are in state prison. And so there's like 3 or 4 of us in there. And I introduced myself to them, and I'm like, oh, I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. And they're like, yeah, everything's cool around here. It's real mellow. And I'd been there before, and it generally was. Well, anyway, I wake up the next morning. Well, I get woke up the next morning. And somebody's like, hey, dude, something just happened. Because I'd slept kind of late, because you just sleep all day if you wanted to. No, I think I skipped breakfast. I don't even think I didn't want to. I was tired from getting transferred and whatever. But anyway, I skipped breakfast, you know. And, but it was like 9 o'clock. I think they let different units out for yard at different times, and they'd let people out for yard. But not our unit and a few others. They don't want to let everybody out at once because there's like 3,000 people in West Yard. Somebody wakes me up and goes, dude, one of these other halls, something's kicking off over there. It's about to kick off out in the yard. What happened was they let like 4 of the units out for yard. And they do that. Everybody goes out to the yard on the same day, but it's like 4 units for a couple hours, another 4 units for a couple hours. There's like, I don't know how many units. I can't remember on West Yard. It's like 10 or 11, 12. Said, but come to find out, what happened was they always leave some people behind to watch everybody's lockers to make sure that nobody gets into the lockers and steals the store. Because there's no locks on them, you know. But anyway, while they're in there, some black guys started beating up on the white guy that was in there watching the, you know, keeping lookout, and was robbing the lockers of people's store. And that guy was like, got away from them, and they were just like, fuck you, get out of here, and started eating their stores, like robbing the stores, the people's like commissary, you know, soups and coffee and candy or whatever. And he got to the window, because there's windows, and he's like, hey, guys just jumped me and they're stealing stuff in here. All of a sudden, it started jumping out off on the yard, and there's like a couple hundred people, 300 people out there. And that's when they woke me up in our unit. And they're like, man, shit's probably going to kick off on all these units. There's going to be a riot between the whites, the Mexicans, and the blacks. The thing is our unit the whites were rolling deep. Half the people in that unit, 45%, a good 45% were white. That was the demographics. It was basically the demographics of California, was the demographics of the racial population in prison. Like 45% of the people were white in California State Prison. Department of Corrections, California Department of Corrections. And then about 20% of them were, sometimes even 25, were Southern Hispanics, Sureños, Mexican Mafia, whatever you want to call them. There were no Norteños. Those guys were in, like, protective custody. Not protective custody, but they were segregated because they get killed. Okay, period. There are a few others, Asians, and then there's like 15% black. Maybe a little less even, like 12. You know? It's basically the demographics of California. You know, there's like 40 million people in California at the time, a little bit less, like 39, and only like 4 million of them are black in California. That's it. That's what it was back then. I don't know what the demographics are now, but there wasn't a whole lot. You know, there's only like 4 million black people in California at the time. It's mainly Asian, white, Hispanic. Not a whole lot of Asians in prison though. There's a bunch of Asians in California. That's the only one that's different, is the demographics of Asians out on the street and demographics of Asians in prisons way less in prison than the per capita. But anyway, everybody's getting ready for this riot to occur, and the shot callers from the Mexicans and the paisas who are, we call them paisas, they're people from down south, Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, you know, Nicaragua. They're paisas, we call them. They all got together and they're like talking about what's going to happen here. And there just been a riot in LA County Jail. This is kind of like part 2 in prison. It was like some tension had started in LA County Jail, and it spread to state prison as people got released out of LA County Jail and got transferred into prison. The stories were starting to get out, and it was like the tension was high, kind of. But anyway, just the Hispanics outnumbered the blacks 3-1. If the whites would have jumped in, it would have been like 6 or 7-1. And so the blacks were like going, yeah, man, you guys are going to jump a 7-1. Fucking, that's shitty. And so the Sureños were like, you know what? We'll do this by ourselves. So the Sureños said to the shot caller for the whites, you guys just kick back and watch. We didn't kick back and watch. It started happening in the day room, and we all went to this back room and packed in there. They said, you guys stay out of this. We're going to handle this. Because it was mainly the tension was between the Sureños and the blacks. They'd been like this ongoing riots that kept kicking off in LA County Jail and a few other prisons, and now it was just time for West Block, I guess. And the Sureños were like, no, man, we can handle this by ourselves. Because you guys are always saying we need the woods to help back us up, or we can beat you guys. Well, we'll show you. The riot kicked off. Guys, it was terrible. In that unit, like 5 black guys got life-threatening injuries to where they had to get airlifted out to the hospital. And I think one guy got killed. In the whole West Yard, like 15 guys got killed, all black. And about 30 of them got life-threatening injuries where they had to get taken to the hospital. About 15 of them had to get airlifted by helicopter because they're so badly injured to save their lives. And about another 15 of them were bad enough to where they had to get taken to the hospital, but they just rushed them there in ambulances. It was bad. Like 50 of them, the black casualties are like 50. About 15 got killed. It was actually the worst prison riot, I think, in U.S. history. As far as, I think there might have been a worse one in New Mexico. But that wasn't really a riot. That was more just the prisoners took over the prison and killed all the guys in PC. But I don't think they killed as many people as got killed. I think this is the most fatalities in U.S. prison history. And it was terrible too, because the cops came in with block guns. They had AR-15s out on the yard, and they fired a couple shots. I think maybe somebody got shot. I'm not sure, but I think they fired some shots. Supposed to be no warning shots, but they fired some shots. I don't think anybody got shot, but everybody had to hit the ground. And then they came in with the goon squads, unit by unit, and rushed in, get on the ground, and firing block guns and flashbang grenades and OC canisters, spraying pepper spray. And they came in with gas masks and shields and billy clubs and grabbed us all and just dragged. And there was blood everywhere. They just dragged us through the blood. Dragged us outside, and it was terrible. They had us out there. They stripped us down to our underwear, had us zip tied behind our backs, and this is like December 20th or something like that. It was December, so basically it's known as the Christmas riot, but it wasn't Christmas. It was maybe a couple weeks before Christmas, but it's known as the Christmas riot. It's a notorious riot, and I was there. They had us outside in Chino in December in our underwear, having to stay still. And so we were just packed in a huge pile of the whites and the Sureños, trying to keep ourselves from freezing to death. The people on the outside of the pile, these guys, you would have to take turns. Somebody, because you'd get in the middle, you'd stay warmer. Because we were freezing to death. It was like 38, 39 degrees that night. And we were out there in our underwear zip tied on the ground all night long until sunup. It's terrible. And they took us and packed us in like these small holding cells, like 50 apiece. And it was only about big enough for like 10 people, but they'd have us just packed in, which is just like something you see in the third world or something. They had us packed in there for a few days. Everybody got sick because there's somebody in there with the flu or the cold. And we're just packed in there. We'd been out there in the cold all night. Now we're packed in this hot cell with no air conditioning. They were torturing us, basically. Then they segregated the whole prison. They eventually moved us back into the units. It was terrible. People had busted out, because there's glass windows. They bust out the glass or use them, wrapping them in, pieces of towel for a handle to keep from cutting your hands, and slicing people with them and taking big chunks and throwing them like ninja stars. People got fucked up bad. And eventually they segregated everybody. They put all the black guys in one. They kept the prison population segregated for a while after this. The whole prison population in California. Even though it's against federal law, they just went, nah, we're going to do things our way because it's just too many people are going to get killed if we don't do this. And it's pretty quiet. I was back in the same dorm I was, but it's only Sureños and whites. No others. Some Indians, Native Americans. It was real quiet and peaceful, because we were kind of like burned out. But how did God protect me in this instance? If they would have they would have agreed the whites were going to get involved in this riot, I would have been forced to participate. And I would have had horrible, I don't know exactly what would have happened, but it could have been where I'd have a horrible moral injury. Because, I like to think of myself as a tough guy and a fighter, but I don't have the killer instinct. I don't want to hurt anybody. I just don't want anybody to hurt me, and I want to stand up for myself and fight them off, beat them up. Yeah, you want some more of that? That's what I thought. Try to victimize somebody else, motherfucker. That sort of thing. Just a stand-up wood that's ready to fight and stand up for himself, and if I have to hurt you, I will. But jumping, rat packing some guy and stomping him to death, I wouldn't have wanted to do that, but I probably would have had to, because in a riot like that, if you don't get involved in it, people see it. Everybody's watching everybody, and if it's called laying down and licking your nuts. If you lay down and lick your nuts and don't put in the work, you'll get killed. They'll just later on down the line, they're gonna catch you back in the shower in the day room or whatever, and you'll get rat packed 5-1 and beat half to death or killed. So I would have been forced to. But I wasn't, because the Woods didn't get involved in the riot in that unit. Some of the other units they did. But not in my unit. We were the only unit that the Woods did get involved. And to be perfectly honest with you, all the other Woods in there were embarrassed to talk about. They'd lie and say they weren't in that unit because they were ashamed.